All right, time now for the weigh-in right here on the MMA Hour. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. Look, man, there's only one thing to talk about today, right? And everyone's kind of talked it to death, but we've now had a little bit of time to think about it all and process it and see what it means. We got to talk about that brawl. There's just no other thing to talk about, and which is kind of funny because a truly historic fight happened and a historic moment happened. I'll get to some of that and the more crucial details in the Monday Morning Analyst a little bit later in the show. But let's open it up here talking about this brawl. And here's the central question that I'm trying to ask and I'm trying to dig through. Whose responsibility was that? Like, if we had to attribute blame, who was responsible for the post-UFC 229 brawl, right? And I think a lot of you might say Khabib is the one who's at fault, right? After all, he's the one who jumped out of the octagon and then tried to drop kick Dylan Dennis in what has become, by the way, a truly iconic photo. If you guys seen it, it's like from the position of Khabib jumping in, neither here nor there. Sure, I could buy that argument. Khabib is to blame. Okay, all right, fine. Some might say it was McGregor to blame, right? Here was the guy going out there and stoking the flames of ethnic and regional tensions, being incredibly disparaging towards somebody's father, family, team, manager. I mean, it goes on and on. Calling him backwards, by the way, which is getting into some really troubling territory as well. And then you could also say, well, he also punched a guy in the octagon, even though he got attacked a little bit. You can see some of it here. So sure, he has some responsibility to bring to this situation as well. It's like, I believe he has a right to say whatever he wants, but you have to know your audience. You got to know who you're playing with. Yo, Khabib Nurmagomedov is about that life, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you like that or whether you hate that, that is a fact. That's just what it is. And if you're going to say those kinds of things, I'm not in any way saying you should allow for that kind of behavior to take place. What I'm saying to you is it's inevitable that it will. It is inevitable that it will. You play with people who don't want to be played with. Don't be surprised when you succeed. Right? You wanted to get into his head. Congrats. You did. So he has some responsibility to bear here. You can say that the security staff did whatever they could, and I believe that. Could there have been more of them? Could there have been better preparations? I suppose. I wouldn't attribute much blame to them. I think they did everything they possibly could. But certainly for next time, maybe some greater precautions should be there. Is the UFC responsible for helping to create a space to facilitate this kind of behavior? You could make an argument that they were. You could make an argument, right? They never really ever sanctioned Conor. In fact, neither did Conor's team, SBG, as I mentioned before. When Marcelo Garcia got tired of Dylan Dennis just being weird on Instagram, chucked him out. Nothing ever happened to anyone over there as far as I know. Certainly nothing ever public. UFC didn't do anything. UFC stood by, not merely with this fight, but as well as with Jose Aldo. Now, they did put on a tremendous event with the green octagon and the steam coming over the top of the smoke or whatever that was. I mean, it was a phenomenal sight, phenomenal booking, and it was a phenomenal success. I take my hat off to him in that respect. But if you allow room for these kinds of ideas to fester, you're going to end up in a bit of an uncomfortable spot. So there's that as well. But here's really what I want to focus on. You could blame all of those actors. The answer really, though, is who is to blame. It's not that it's one or the other. It's kind of everybody. But here's the truth. It's also us. Yeah, it's us. It's us. I saw after the fight a lot of people saying, hey, look, it's no big deal. And by the way, the rematch is going to make $1 million. And that's using the proverbial $1 million. Like, it's going to make a gajillion. It's going to make incredible amounts of money. And here is my response to that. It's like, I believe that. I believe that is true. It's also ghoulish that it's true. That's gross, man. Super gross that would be that way. It is that way, but it just, look, the central insight here is I don't think we should be clutching our pearls and, fainting on couches. These kinds of things have happened in combat sports many times. As I told him, Danny, it's not really a WWE thing. It's a boxing thing more than anything else. With these riotous scenes outside of the sporting venue or the arena, not the arena, but the area of contest. You've seen those sites all the time. But when we gleefully indulge in the financial upside of ethnic tension, something's kind of wrong with us, man. something's a little bit wrong with this. And maybe it's not so wrong with this that it needs some kind of major fixing. And to a degree, it gets to be of a slippery slope. How much of it can be personal? And then it gets to, well, this crosses the line. And well, if that doesn't cross the line, but then this crosses the line. And there's this series of escalations and everyone's got this sort of subjective interpretation of it all. I get that it's a little hard to balance, but like the reason why it will make a lot of money if they did a rematch or whatever, they keep these tensions alive, is because customers love it. All of us, me included to a degree, and you out there to a degree. You know, I'm not so upset that it happened in as much as I am a little bit bothered that we're not taking any time to question why we're so happy about a financial upside for this kind of disparagement and debauchery. That seems a little off. You could say, well, look, what about the bus incident and chucking the dolly? Everyone loved that. Well, some people loved that. Some of us wondered if that was really the best idea, or that if at a bare minimum, we should be, so magnifying of it. Go back to that John Malkovich promo that they ran. Not really one mention of the dolly, not any kind of focus on it at all. I kept saying to people, it's not that the bus is not a good vehicle for selling fights. It's just a good vehicle for selling fights to donks. Because the reality is this fight has historic implications, historic importance. It's truly one of those kinds of events. In any event, man, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if they're going to book a rematch, and if they do, I don't know when. I don't know when any of this stuff is going to happen. Here's what I know, though. If you're in a sport and the thing that's really driving you is, man, we can make so much money off of ethnic tension and international rivalry, the fight game is nakedly kind of who you are, yeah? We all have a preference somewhere for sameness, whether that's a national sameness, a religious sameness, a familial sameness, a color sameness, an ideological sameness. We all have a preference for it all. And that's why when you have these Mexican versus Puerto Rican rivalries in boxing, people get up for it. It's supposed to boost pride, not make money off of the ugliness of conflict. And I feel like we're getting a little bit too far into one side. So who's responsible for it all? Yeah, man, Khabib's responsible for it all. Conor's responsible for it all. UFC, various other actors you could point to in these videos and whatnot. The truth is, we're responsible for it because we crave it, we pay for it, we demand it. Frankly, we reward it. And me and the media, we cover it, perhaps a little too uncritically. And that's my way in.